Welcome back, everybody. It's Overwatch League. It's week number 2 of Stage 4, Part 2. We got 2 more days of Overwatch action, and then we'll be 2/5 of the way through the stage. I think after Saturday, I'm going to make a updated power rankings as like what I think after 2 weeks. Because I mean, obviously, we don't know everything after 2 weeks, but we're starting to get a decent feel for like the meta and which teams are good at it, which teams are not. So I think that the last couple days we had some very good matches. A lot of matches that were closer than we might have thought, at least on the first day. So, starting off with, I mean, the Fuel blanked the Uprising 3-0. That was insane. I didn't get a chance to watch that. I had a prior engagement, but yeah, I looked at it afterward, and I saw 3-0, and I was like, wait a minute, that's the Fuel that won. And like I said, if they were going to win a match like in the near future, that would be the one. But I didn't think they would do it. So that was cool, really cool for Dallas. They're showing that this meta is really good for them. They got tons of flexibility. Time was playing very good on Widow and McCree. Siegel, I think, has turned into a very, very good diva. OGE has been very solid. I think he's been pretty consistently improving. They had Unko back in, and he was playing well. They subbed in AKM for a match or two, and he played well. So, yeah, things looking pretty good for Fuel. Taking Tracer out of the meta is pretty helpful for them because they don't have effect. Yeah, it was nice to see this team get a win. Like I said, they haven't beaten somebody besides Shanghai in forever. So to see them get that win is very nice. Obviously, they're not going to make the playoffs. They've already been eliminated because of their record. But maybe they could make a run for this stage. I don't think they will, but I think they'll be a lot more competitive against some teams. They'll probably pick up another win or maybe two this stage. So that'd be cool to see. Things are looking up for Dallas. Boston, they fall to 0-3. They're really lucky they had that 14-game win streak. If they had lost like a couple of those close games, a couple of close game fives, like maybe if they have one or two more losses, they could be in serious trouble of like being, we might fall out of the playoffs too. So I think they're going to be fine. Their record is good enough that the 0-3 isn't killer. As long as they find a way to get some wins. I think if they can finish out like 3-4, which I think they're definitely capable of, they should be fine. But yeah, Boston definitely has some issues. They need to figure it out. Some people think they should sub out Mistakes and put in Note and Kalios, so they'd have like the triple tank kind of thing that the Fuel have kind of been doing with Siegel and Mickey and OGE. But Siegel can also flex to DPS when they need him. If Boston went to that, they would basically just have one DPS like at all times. So we'll see what happens with that. They definitely need to change it up though, because Boston they have not figured out this new meta yet, and they're going to need to. Otherwise, they could very well make the playoffs and then get bounced out of the playoffs very fast. So after that, we had the LA Valiant taking on the Florida Mayhem. This match was closer than expected as well. Valiant did end up winning 3-1, but yeah, the Mayhem, they looked good on the first map. They won it on Kings Row, and then they did end up almost taking Watchpoint Gibraltar. They nearly full held the Valiant. They took away all their ults. It was one more push. Florida had a distinct advantage, and they just couldn't get that team fight win, and it ended up snowballing for the Valiant, and before you knew it, it was 3-1. So it was nice to see Florida come out and really have a better performance because they've kind of been rolled every other time out this stage. That's that one map win against the Valiant is their only map win on the stage. So yeah. Then we had the match of the Gladiators and the Outlaws. This was a good match, just like I thought it'd be. It didn't go to 5, which I was kind of surprised about. The Outlaws, they won the first map, no surprise there. That's like their favorite comp. But then they tried to run dive on Hanamura, and it went horribly. Gladiators won easily, and that's when they started getting their momentum. Gladiators are a better control team, so they won on control. And then in a very back and forth, super close, really fun Dorado match, Gladiators were able to pull it out in OT. I think that Gladiators would have won in 5 if they had gone there, but it was a big win for them to get that win on Escort. Dorado seems to be probably their best Escort map, because they really struggle on that type. So if they can start getting more wins on that map type, it'll be huge for them, and they've put themselves in a very good chance to make the overall playoffs. And honestly, I don't think Houston's done yet. I think Houston still has a chance. They just need to figure out how to either get decent at dive, or they need to just find a way to completely abandon dive and always go with like their more tankish heavy comp, like double snipers comp. They need to do that and then use that effectively against like the dive comps. So we'll see what Houston ends up doing. But I just know that putting Jake on that tracer and going like full dive, it's not gonna work. It's not going to work for them. They're a terrible dive team. We knew that in stages 2 and 3. They need to go back to what they're good at. And if they do, I could see this team making a run for the playoffs as well. I mean, we have some teams that are really faltering. So it's going to be very interesting to see. On Thursday, we had a great match between Spitfire and Shock. Spitfire did end up eking it out 3-2. But that was very back and forth. It was nice to see Birdring performing back to his normal level, I'd say, or at least close to that normal level. He was doing really well in Widowmaker. He switched to McCree for a little bit and was really hitting his shots. So that was cool to see. London, I think, that was a huge win for them. They're going to, I think, probably finish the stage at least 5-5 now. I think they're going to beat like most teams going forward. And then we had the Gladiators against the Mayhem. That one was a complete stomp. Gladiators 4-0. Then we had the Fusion against the Dragons, also a stomp, 4-0 for Fusion. Man, Philadelphia, I mean, you'll see when I put out my power rankings in the next couple days. That'll probably come out on Sunday or Monday. But, man, the Fusion look good. They look really good. They are a scary, scary team. But without further ado, we'll get into the predictions for today and tomorrow. We've got some great matches. First one, going to be big. LA Valiant against Boston Uprising. So, Valiant have played some pretty darn easy teams. They played the Dragons already. They played the Mayhem, and the first team they played, if I remember right, was that. Yeah, that's right. They played Seoul and they barely won. And Seoul's been looking pretty weak. So, this is, even though Boston has been struggling mightily, this is probably still the best team they've played against, or second best. So, it'll be the Valiant's toughest chance yet in this stage. The Valiant always seem to have an easy schedule right away. But Boston, I mean, do I really see them going 0-4? It could happen. They're playing on Kings Row, Hanamura, Oasis, and then Dorado. I mean, I think these teams they're pretty evenly matched. I think Boston's a bit better, just like skill-wise and mechanic-wise, and just like overall. But like I said, they still have no grasp of the meta. They have not proved they've been able to run some of those new heroes well. And the Valiant have done pretty well with the new meta. I'd say the only thing the Uprising have done well is they have Kalios in on the Zarya, and he's been very, very, very good. But other than that, they haven't really run the Brigida very effectively. They've just been kind of, I don't know, slogging through. A lot of people have been putting a lot of blame on mistakes. I think he deserves definitely some of it, but I think Gamsu and Striker have not been living up to their other stages. I think that it's a lot, especially like when you're playing Tracer, it's a way harder to just murder a backline. Like if they have a Brigida, you got to worry about that extra defense. Plus, they have a Zarya. There's like bubbles that they can put on their team. You got to worry about like the Reinhardt maybe coming back and charging you. So there's a lot of things to think about. Striker hasn't been able to play as much Tracer because she's not nearly as prominent in the meta, and he is way better at Tracer than any of his other heroes. He's a good Junkrat, he's a good Pharah, but I think he hasn't played that many heroes in Overwatch League, and I think that's starting to show. But once I'm sure he's been scrimming on a lot of those new heroes now, and in like a week or two, maybe even now, I think he's going to start turning the switch on. He's going to get used to those heroes, and he's going to be really, really effective. So we'll see what Boston tries to run here, but I gotta say I like the Valiant in this match. Uprising have been a bit weaker on Hanamura, so I think that's a good one for Valiant to take. I think Valiant are usually good at like escort and hybrid types, so I think that game one could very well go their way. I see this one being a 3-1 for Valiant. Most of the maps should be pretty close. I think Hanamura might get a little out of hand, but that's just what I think. Who knows? Hanamura seems to be, because it's a map where it's like you take first point, and then you can sometimes you can steamroll on the second point, but if you can't steamroll the second point, you can get stalled out for a long time there. So I think the Valiant will be able to get like a quick second cap, and then Boston will take the first and then get stalled. But who knows? This match is just honestly hard to predict. If the same Boston team shows up that has the last like week and a half, I think the Valiant will win this one. And I don't think the Boston in 2 days, I don't think they'll have improved enough to beat the Valiant. I think it's a 3-1. Now we got the big matchup. Well, used to be bigger. With Seoul struggling now, it's not as hyped up. But hopefully Dynasty can get their footing together for this match. It's the New York Excel against the Seoul Dynasty. They're playing on Kings Row, Horizon Lunar Colony, Lijiang Tower, and then Watchpoint Gibraltar. So I believe the first two maps between these teams, the first two matches went to a fifth map. Excelsior won 3-2 both times. And I think in stage 3, the Excelsior won easily, if I remember right. I mean, we'll see what Seoul runs. They've had Jaehong on that main tank. I think they need to switch Miro back because Jaehong is just totally awful on the Reinhardt. It's just bad. He doesn't really know how to play the hero. He's got no experience on him. Having him play against like these really good Reinhardts just isn't fair. Like Winston, he could get away with a little more, but not Reinhardt. Okay, come on. If they need to, they can at least like swap Jaehong and Miro. Like if there's a map where they want to be more dive oriented, you play Winston. But on a lot of these maps now, you can't just play Winston. You got to play Reinhardt, and you got to play him effectively. So I think on those, you got to sub in Miro. He's one of the best Reinhardts out there. Like for Kings Row, for Lijiang Tower, Horizon Lunar Colony's been terrible for Seoul. So I want to say Seoul will keep this one close. I'd say they'll take a map, but I don't think this match will be that close. New York is just a much better team right now. In just about every single way. So I'm going to say it's a 3-1 for New York. Then we got two teams coming off a loss trying to bounce back. We got San Fran Shock. They lost a close match to the Spitfire, facing the Houston Outlaws, who just came off their first stage loss against the Gladiators. They're playing on Blizzard World, Horizon Lunar Colony, Oasis, and then Dorado. So I think the map pool, this is probably like the weakest of like the combinations of maps for the Outlaws because there's no Kings Row. I think they like Hanamura more than Horizon Lunar Colony. So it's probably a better chance for the Shock to win this one, but I don't think they will. I think Houston's going to take this one. San Fran has had issues attacking first point on Blizzard World for the last couple stages, so I think Outlaws will have a very good defense there, and then they'll have an easy win condition for themselves, and they'll win it. Shock, they look a lot better on assault maps, but they're still not great on them. I think the Outlaws will. It's a Horizon Lunar Colony is a really good Junkrat map, and it's a map that you can hold pretty easily on first point, as opposed to most ones where it's like you hold. First point can get taken quickly sometimes, but then you can hold for a while in second, and you can hold for a while in second on Horizon. But the first point is pretty tough to attack, so I think that again Houston will have a great defense, and then they'll make their win condition pretty easy on attack, and they'll take that one as well. I think the Shock will edge out the Outlaws on Oasis. You'll see Architect versus Linkster on the Widow, I'm sure. Sinatra will be running around on Tracer or Brigida. It seems like they've really solidified Architect and Sinatra as their DPSs for this stage. I'd say probably because Sombra is not as useful. They're like, okay, Dante, your main two heroes are Sombra and Tracer, and they're not as useful now. And we have Sinatra, who's just as good, if not a little better, on Tracer, and he can flex towards the Brigida a bit more. He can go on the Zarya if need be. So it makes sense for the Shock to have Architect and Sinatra mostly in the game. And I think that just with their talent of the DPS, and we'll see if they play their new off-tank Choyobin again, or if they go back to Nevix. Either way, I think the Shock will take Game 3, and then I think it'll be close, but Outlaws will edge them out on Game 4 for a 3-1 victory. They look pretty solid on Dorado. They were a little slow to switch their comp when need be, but other than that, it's been pretty solid for them. So that's why I think that they'll take map 4. The Shock have, I mean, they struggled on it in stage 1. That doesn't really matter though. It's ancient history. But Outlaws, I just like them more as a team. I think Super against the Spitfire really got punished every time he dived in. Like every time he was aggressive, they just punished it and killed him. And I think the Outlaws will do a similar thing because they are a very defensive-oriented team. So I think this will be a tough matchup for the Shock. Moving on to Saturday, Seoul Dynasty. That's right. They haven't played yet this week. They got a double. In 2 days, just like the Mayhem and the Gladiators had the last couple days. So it's Dynasty versus Spitfire. Another what would be huge matchup, but both these teams have been struggling as of late. They're playing on Kings Row, Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, and then Watchpoint Gibraltar. So I mean, I think Dynasty will definitely lose to New York. If they do, they'll be down to 19 and 14. They'll be in 7th place. If they lose this match, they could very well fall to 8th place. I think it's starting to get really dire for Seoul. The Spitfire did just win. They improved their record to 21 and 12. I think the Spitfire are looking a bit better. I don't have much faith in Seoul right now. But this is, if Seoul does lose to New York, and I'm like 98% chance they will, or 98% sure they will. Seoul needs to win this match. Like I think they're like on the verge of being done if they lose. If they go to 0-4 and drop to 19 and 15, then I mean the Gladiators will be a full game ahead of them. A lot of Philly will be like 2 or 3 ahead of them, and all those other teams will be ahead of them. They'll probably be tied with the Outlaws then for the 7/8 spot. So Dynasty needs this. I'll say that they make the adjustments. I'll trust Seoul one more time. I say, but they haven't played well against Spitfire at all, like in any of their matchups. So we'll see what they field for their comp. I can't do it. I'm switching. It's got to be the Spitfire. I don't trust Seoul. Spitfire are looking better. Bird Ring's looking better. They shrunk down their roster a little bit, so they're more of like these are the guys that are playing. And there's barely going to be any subs anymore. And I think that was one of London's big problems. So now that everyone's kind of like secured in their role, I think they're going to improve again and get back at least close to their stage 1 form. And I think they'll win this one. I'll say 3-1. Maybe Seoul will take like Hanamura or Lijiang, but maybe Watchpoint. But yeah, I think this is a win for Spitfire. It's just Seoul's just looking so weak right now, and it's insane to say that Seoul Dynasty, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I really don't. And if you had told someone that before the season, they would have laughed in your face. But now here we are. So moving on, we got Shanghai Dragons visiting New York Excelsior 4-0. Moving on, we got Dallas Fuel against the Philadelphia Fusion. They're playing on Kings Row, Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, and then Watchpoint Gibraltar. So, Game 1 is going to be the decider in this series. If Fuel win Game 1, I think it's on, and it's going to be extremely close. I think they go to 5. If Philly wins Game 1, I think they're going to go up 3-0, and then Fuel will take Game 4. Fuel have looked very solid on Watchpoint. Sorry, on Watchpoint Gibraltar. I think Philly will take Game 3, definitely. Philly's also looked very solid on Hanamura, so I think that one will be back and forth, but they'll edge it out because every time they'll win the time bank a bit more over Fuel, and then that eventually will give them the win. I'm going to say the Fuel looked really good, though. I think they're going to win. Well, they're really going to have to play a good Zarya game. I think they're going to find a way to take Game 1 or 2, and then they're going to take Game 4. I think this one goes to 5. but I do think Philadelphia edges it out. They have more like superstar like plays and like crazy stuff. And it's like if it's a time where I give a decent shot, like AKM, I give less of a shot. But if they're playing against Carpe, I don't think either of them can win that Widow duel. Um, Phillies looked so good with their new tanks in. So we shall see. Fuel have been playing very well. Fusion have been playing very well. This is like the ultimate test for Dallas. If they can stick close with the Fusion or beat them, it's like, okay, now we know they're really legit and they should be able to make a run for the stage playoffs. But I mean, I think Philly is a very like they're towards the top of all the teams right now. Just like the way that they're playing wise. So this will be a super tough one. I think Fusion in 5. And yeah, that should be a super fun match to watch. My Gladiators obviously are done for the week, so I'm gonna have to find a couple matches to really focus on. I think Fuel Fusion will definitely be one of them. Valiant Uprising will be a very telling one, just because I want to see how Uprising respond. And then maybe that Excelsior Dynasty match will be close. I think pretty much all these matches should be good, except for Shanghai and New York. So we got some good matchups the next couple weeks. Hope you guys enjoy them. Hope you guys have a great couple days. And then I'll see you in a couple days for my power rankings.